Let's talk about one of Hollywood's darkest stories. It's a tale of massive ambition, huge movie stars, and a deadly secret hiding in plain sight. This is the story of the film The Conqueror and its unbelievable nuclear legacy.
91. Just think about that number for a second. That's how many people from a single movie production wound up developing cancer in the years after filming wrapped.
So you have to ask, right? Was this just some awful, tragic coincidence, some kind of Hollywood curse? Or was the cast and crew of this movie exposed to something they couldn't see, couldn't feel, but that would turn out to be absolutely catastrophic?
To really understand what happened here, we've got to go back. Back to the 1950s. This was the golden age of Hollywood epics, and a new film was gearing up to be one of the biggest ones yet.
Okay, so the film was called The Conqueror, a huge production backed by the legendary tycoon Howard Hughes. And get this, it starred one of the biggest names in movie history, John Wayne, playing Genghis Khan. Yeah, I know. To capture that epic feel of the Mongol Empire, they picked a location that looked perfect, the vast, sweeping deserts of Utah.
But here's the thing. What the cameras couldn't see, what nobody knew, was that an invisible threat had already poisoned that beautiful landscape. The entire production had unknowingly walked right into a nuclear fallout zone.
You see, this gorgeous Utah location had a very, very dangerous neighbor. It was just 137 miles downwind from the Nevada test site. And back then, that test site was a busy place, a really busy place.
We're talking over 900 nuclear tests were conducted there. Think about that for a second. Hundreds of atomic bombs exploding and sending these huge clouds of radioactive particles, nuclear fallout, just drifting on the wind, settling like a silent dust over the exact desert where this crew is about to spend weeks filming their movie.
Now, of course, the production would have checked. You'd think so, right? And they did. They were given the official all clear. The U.S. government assured them, yep, the area was perfectly safe for the public.
The problem was, it wasn't. So while the government was giving out these assurances, the scientific reality was absolutely terrifying. The site was contaminated. Every single day of that shoot, the cast and crew were breathing, eating, and living with an invisible poison all around them.
And when you ignore science like that, well, there's always a price to pay. This negligence led to an inevitable and tragic outcome. It led to a devastating human cost that has cemented this film's place as one of Hollywood's greatest tragedies.
All in all, there were 220 people in the cast and crew working on location in that Utah desert. 220 people, all exposed.
And of those 220 people, 91 of them eventually developed cancer. That is 41%, almost 1 out of every 2 people on that set. I mean, come on, that's not a coincidence. That is a devastating, horrifying pattern.
And we aren't talking about faceless statistics here. These were some of the biggest stars of the era. The star of the film, the legend himself, John Wayne, he died of stomach cancer. His co-star, Susan Hayward, she died of a brain tumor. The director, Dick Powell, died of lymphoma. The list just goes on and on and on. And if you can believe it, the danger didn't even stop when they left a desert. The producer, Howard Hughes, was obsessed with making the movie look real, so he had 60 tons of that Utah sand trucked back to Hollywood for reshoots. 60 tons of potentially radioactive dirt brought right onto the studio lot.
Maybe the most heartbreaking part of this whole story is who isn't included in these statistics. A lot of local Navajo and Paiute people were hired as extras for the movie. They lived on that land. Their exposure was never measured. Their names weren't recorded. Their suffering has never, ever been officially acknowledged.
So what do we take away from all this? The movie itself was a famous flop, but its true legacy? Well, its true legacy is far more chilling, and it's left these unseen scars on so many lives.
The story of The Conqueror is really the ultimate terrifying example of an invisible threat. Radiation isn't like a cut. It doesn't leave a visible wound. You can't see it, you can't taste it. But its effects are profound, and its awful legacy can last for decades, even for generations.
If anything, this tragedy is a brutal reminder. Taking care of people, being transparent, and actually respecting science. That stuff has to come first. It has to come before the budget, before the schedule, and it sure as hell has to come before the cameras start rolling. And that leaves us with one final, pretty unsettling thought. Look, The Conqueror was a product of its time, an era where people were maybe blissfully ignorant about nuclear dangers. But it forces us to ask ourselves,
What are the invisible threats of our own time? What dangers, right in front of our faces, might we be overlooking today?